Setting up a company in Dubai Free Zone is very, very, very simple. In today's video, I'm going to share all the information you need in regards to a free zone. If you have any questions, get in touch with me on the email address mentioned below and share it with someone who may need it. Enjoy.
Zeba, today we're talking about the Dubai Free Zone. So let's start with what is a Dubai Free Zone and why has it become so popular for company setup?
Okay. Vic, it's surprising, but UAE free zones and Dubai free zones have been popular for a very long time. The reason is because they've always given 100% ownership, which wasn't there in the mainland companies until June 2021, which you would require a local sponsor on the license always. In regards to free zones, there are over 42 free zones in UAE. And if I just speak about Dubai, there are 30 free zones. The advantage with a free zone is it's unified and transparent pricing, which means you could know exactly what the price is. The price doesn't determine on the number of, if the share capital changes or on the activity, it all remains constant. I already mentioned 100% ownership, so that still exists. The third option is you could literally set up any company from professional license to your civil license to your commercial license in a free zone. There is no restrictions. There are certain restrictions on certain activities. For example, contracting or development, which can only be done in a mainland company and cannot be done in a free zone. Barring that, you have over 1,000 plus activities available, which you can choose from. Another strategic advantage is that it allows you to have multiple activities on one license. Some even go up to 10 and some even more than that, which means I could have different activities on one particular license. Instead of the shareholder actually opening different companies every time for different activities, here he could group them, could have them in one license, and he or she saves cost. So it's more cost effective. Also, when I speak about cost effectiveness, a lot of times the free zones do run certain offers and promotions. So I would always tell the client to check on that because they sometimes give you an offer with visa free for life. So you don't pay for the allocation charges, which is actually quite nice. With a free zone company, you get a unit lease agreement by default. So wherein in a mainland company, yes, you either take an office or you take a virtual ejari. Certain licenses in the mainland do not require a virtual ejari because they are instant licenses, but the banks will not open your account if there is no ejari. Whereas in free zones, you don't face this problem because you get a unit lease agreement any which way. So which is an added bonus. In terms of free zones, clients which prefer only if you exceed certain amount of visas, then you have to have an office in that particular free zone. Again, the clients who want office in that particular free zones are very specific to the free zone that they're deciding. It gives them much better network opportunities. They can engage much better with like-minded peers who belong from the same industry.
With so many free zones to choose from, how does an entrepreneur know which free zone is best suited for their business in Dubai?
Great question. Something that needs to be factored is, and I always say, is your cost and is the business objective or the goal and what is the requirement from it. Effectively, all free zones can have similar activities. There is no difference or bifurcation. However, if somebody, for example, wants to do commodity trading, could be gold, silver, any sort of commodity trading, would prefer to have an office in DMCC because, again, they would have like-minded peers belonging from the same industry. And this is very common even in India, even in Bombay, where I come from, because you have your solid diamond community, which is concentrated only in one region. So it's pretty much that way. Similarly, someone who would prefer a healthcare license, could be a hospital or a medical pharmacy, would prefer to have, or any sort of medical services, would prefer to have a license in Dubai Healthcare City. It's not that other places do not have that license or the free zones don't have that license, but they would just prefer that. Likewise, if I give you another example, DIFC. if you want to belong to that particular community, you would want to have an office over there. Now, DIFC is expensive, but is it worth it? Does my business need it? 100%. It depends upon your nature of work. So it completely depends on the license you select.
Okay, so just staying in the subject of activity and licensing and things like that, how does one choose the right business activity for their company?
Okay. Nice question. Okay. Business activity should always be chosen basis what the company is going to engage in. Okay, I've had clients coming and telling me, I just want a license. But what license do you need? What activity are you going to conduct? You need to be sure on that. So you take the activity, what you're actually going to do. Take that. If you're in doubt, go ahead for another activity. Include that on the license. Free zones give you up until 3 activities free on a license. So put that, but just ensure that it doesn't go too different, because then the bank is going to have a problem. Because eventually you open a company, you need a bank account. Now, if you're going to have something which is extremely different, it doesn't make sense. For example, if you have metal trading and then you have garment trading, it's got no relevance, right? So be relevant. Get the activity in which you're actually going to do business. A lot of times I also end up telling clients, take something which is similar to your home country, in case if you're looking at setting up the same operations here, or you're planning to relocate here, which we've seen a lot of relocation happen recently. So I would say, because that's something what you're experienced in, or you probably get somebody who's experienced in that. So take the activity basis on what you're actually going to do.
Okay, so now I'm ready to apply. What are the documents needed? What's the costs involved? What's the process around applying for a free zone company?
Okay, I'm going to keep DIFC and ADGM separate, because that is very intensive on documentation and compliance. If I go on that, I could speak for another 2 hours on that. So we'll just speak about general free zones. You require identification documents, which is your passport size photo. If you have a Visa Emirates ID existing, you would give that. If there's an NOC which is applicable, you would give an NOC as well. Your basic information, like your address in home country, email address, a phone number. After that, you would also have to give 3 name options. The thing is, you always ask for minimum 3 name options, because what if one is not available? You don't want to keep going back to the client every time. You give it in order of preferences. That's good. You'd mention on who has any particular powers, if at all. If one partner, for example, has some extra powers, you do that. For example, if it's a foreign company that is going to be the owner of the free zone entity, you require all company documents of the home country or the mother company, which will have to be notarized or apostilled and MOFA tested in that particular country and in UAE as well. If there's any power of attorney that you want, I would suggest just make that and keep. Rest documentation is extremely simple. The process is very straightforward. Free zones do everything from start to bottom. It's 100% remote, so that's another added advantage.
What about the associated costs involved? At what stages in the process will there be costs?
Okay. Again, not talking about complicated free zones. We are only speaking about the easy free zones. The cost associated is typically your registration cost, your license cost, establishment card cost. After this is done, then whether you're taking visas, you're not taking visas. So if you're taking visas, there's a visa allocation cost. And then, of course, you have your normal cost, which is your medicals and your biometric cost associated. Rest is all included with the visa allocation.
And is there any ongoing costs thereafter the setup?
Always. Any company will always have ongoing cost, because these licenses have to be renewed every year. You do have an option for taking 2 years license, 3 years license. But if somebody is new, I wouldn't recommend that. Why would you want to block so much funds? Unless, you have a solid plan, you've done your research, then you do that. So there are costs associated in terms of you have your license cost, you have your renewal cost, which is there on that. Every 2 years, you also have your visa cost that needs to be budgeted. Apart that, there are always costs like your operational cost, your overhead cost, which one needs to factor.
Okay, great. So that's everything around setting up a company in the free zone and how to make sure that you optimize the process. Is there any last words of advice that you want to give to someone that might be new to Dubai that wants to set up a free zone?
Okay. First of all, you need to understand that a lot of parameters, right? What work are you going to do? Do you want different activities on the license? The number of shareholders, okay? Then you also have whether you need an office space or you don't need one. Your cost, what is your business objective? Once you've decided that, then it's best to take a decision whether it's going to be a mainland or a free zone.
Okay, great. So just make sure that you have this information figured out before you approach this.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There's no one better.